How's everybody doing today? Michael and I are here. If anybody wants to join the conversation, hey, just shoot us a text, a message, or something, and we'll send you a link, and you can join up with us. So, Michael, over the last few weeks, you've been talking to a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about, it's just I've been watching a lot of these shows, and it's just been great. And tell us a little bit about it.
So I've been bringing a lot of people on my live streams. I've actually been setting up a lot of collaborations with other content creators, which has been fun. One of the I did a Massachusetts trip with Bobby Roast Beef from Jigs and Bigs. I hung out with him, actually camped out with him at the boat ramp, which was an interesting experience. So we literally just set our trucks up next to each other, slept in our trucks, and kind of fished all night. Um, I had some guys on. Actually, I had Bailey Egbrett from Serious Angler and Be the Fish on recently. He's kind of one of those guys that I reach out to a lot because he's from upstate New York. He's actually from like kind of originally he lived in like the Finger Lakes region, and then he moved up towards Buffalo, so he fishes like Lake Erie a lot and all that. But he's one of those guys that I like hit up with questions because a lot of the other guys that I talk to are Florida, Tennessee, and as much as I would like to say angling is universal, this time of year it's really not because we have that whole winter cycle and that whole from now until like June, it's a different atmosphere than it is the rest of the country.
Yeah,
I was
we all
actually
know that.
talking I was talking to a guy so I've been working with a bait painter, so he paints blanks and stuff like that, and he's up on the St. Lawrence, and he was telling me that his water temps are still like 40s. So like
Oh yeah,
they're not even pre-spawn yet. Like not even they're not even there.
yeah, I know that. You get up that way, you're not, it's you're about the end of the month before you're gonna have anything. You know, you're gonna be into the end of the month.
Yeah, it's crazy here too because and I don't know how the weather how it like shaked out for you guys, but it was really weird here because we went from ice conditions to ice out to 65-degree water, and when I was fishing on Sunday, it was back down to 57. So like the water just yo-yoed and it screwed the bass up. They went from ice out to pre-spawn to starting to get ready to make babies to resetting again, and now we're kind of like back on our normal schedule. Because usually it's right around Mother's Day weekend up here when you start seeing beds.
Yeah.
And then pretty much from like Mother's Day weekend into like the first week of June is when they kind of do their big push and then pull back out. But it's really weird this year because I was out on Sunday and I caught those three bass. So I caught a new PB, I caught a 7 pound largemouth, I caught a 5 pounder and a 4 pounder, and all of them were like they had that like squishy belly. You could tell they had eggs. They were full of eggs. Like they'd been eaten up, and you could tell they were like distended. Like they weren't normally that fat, so they were feeding up and getting ready. So it's really weird year for like I don't know how to it's actually been rough for tournaments like for Massachusetts because I don't know what stage they're in, so it's hard to tell what they're going to be because there's so many different weather patterns happening right now.
Oh, yeah, it's typical up there. I'm from New York,
Yep.
and every year it's a hit and miss. It's going to start this week. Well, if you have a mild winter, it starts early. You have a harsh winter, it can start later.
Right.
But then again, you can have a hard winter, but have a mild, toward the end of March, it could warm up real quick.
Yep.
So, and I think it throws the fish into, it just tosses them around because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think what happens a lot, and I can't speak for like the southern area, but like up here, there isn't a spawn. There is like 20 waves where there'll be some that get ready early, and it's usually the big ones. And that's one of the things that like I like to try to hit. There's a couple of lakes around me that, to be fair, I fish them so much that I can pretty much, like, I could probably pull up a GPS map and be like, there's going to be a bed here and a bed here and a bed. Like, you fish these places enough, you know where these fish are going to be. And that's where I caught that 7 pounder. It's not cheating, but it kind of is, because I know based on the weather when those first round of bigs are going to come in. And that's usually from what research I've done with like biology too. The older bass tend to get in and spawn and get out early. So the older ones tend to come in. They're the ones that kind of move in. They're getting through their biological process to get the eggs ready faster because their bodies are just have done it so many times. And that's why this time of year is fun, because you do get those like abnormally heavy bass. Like that bass, that 4 pounder I caught was only 18 inches. Like, there was no tail. Like, it was like the tail was that long, and it was just the same width all the way from there all the way to its head. Like, it was just over bloated. Like, it wasn't very long, and that's what happens a lot of times up here is you'll get those like 18 or 19-inch bass in the spring are 4 pounds, and then the rest of the year they're like maybe 3. They just bloat up.
Well, I mean, it's we talk about where I live. I'm on the Potomac River, and it's tidal water, and the tidal changes every day. You have a new pattern, and
Yep.
it's the same with New York with the hot and the cold. Every spring, the pattern changes, and it's hard. It's you'll have some places where, and you got to remember, in New York, the water comes from Canada down.
Right.
So you might say, hey, it's 80 degrees in, the lower section of New York, like the Dutchess County, Putnam County, Orange County. So those lakes should be producing. Yeah, but the water coming from Canada is still 40 degrees.
Yep.
And it's being fed by 40. So by the time it gets down, it's still cold.
Yeah, and a lot of those lakes and tributaries are fed by like Ontario, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's massive body of water that's not going to heat up that fast.
Well, like you were saying, the Finger Lakes, Syracuse, all those big lakes in central New York, they're all that water's coming from the north. So it
Yep.
takes longer to cool, to warm up.
Yep. Yeah.
So spawning up there might not be till the end of April, beginning of May, whereas down in the southern regions of New York, when you get down lower, it could be around the beginning or middle of April.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it does create a learning curve. And like we were talking before the show, we were talking about, trying to get a biologist on here, and that's where a biologist would come in handy,
Yep.
to be able to explain all that, especially for the northern. And when I say northern anglers, I mean the guys from Vermont to
Cross. Yeah.
Oregon, all the
Yep.
way across the north. It's, even it changes. Southern guys, you don't have to wait till April or May for that water temperature to get up there. It's already up there usually by March.
It's funny when you watch. It's actually funny how when you watch YouTube, you can tell how the bass are progressing, because you'll see guys that'll be like, "Yeah, it's for pre-spawn tactics," but when I'm seeing guys start talking about pre-spawn tactics, we're still iced up. Like,
Yeah.
so we have to, like, everything we do up here is a couple months delayed from the rest of the country for the most part. So it's like you're watching videos on YouTube, you have to take into account that what they're talking about doesn't apply to you for a couple months. So remember it, study it, but they're out pre-spawn fishing today. That's not where we're at. And that's the one thing that I'm learning to understand, though. I always was just fish by instinct, and I didn't pay attention to barometric pressure, fronts, and I'm starting to do that more. because what I have learned is it's about location. So like we were talking about earlier, like if there's a front coming, then those fish are going to push shallow to eat because they know long before humans know, before our advanced technology knows it's coming. They know to eat up. Their instincts tell them I need to eat up and then hunker down for the storm. And then when it's post frontal, they go out in deeper water and they shelter somewhere where they're safe from the elements. And that's something that I'm starting to learn. Like if you look at what the weather patterns is, it'll tell you whether you should go shallow or go deep, or give you a baseline as to where to look for the fish. And then also what baits are going to work, because if they're in hunker down mode, you still can catch them. You just need to be a little bit more finessey and kind of baby
Yeah,
them.
but
Whereas if it's prefrontal and they're ready to just eat everything that's in front of them because they need to eat up before the storm, you could probably throw a tin can with a treble hook and they would eat it because they want to eat everything that moves because they're trying to fill up before they have to hide.
and that's good. Like we were saying about a biologist who could explain that
Yeah.
better,
Yep.
and explain how when you get ready to go fishing the night before, sit there and look at the weather conditions in the area.
Yep.
If you know you got a late storm coming, they're going to be hitting early.
Yep.
You know. All right. So like I said, you speaking about the guy that paints baits,
Yep.
he was supposed to do a special bait for you, did he?
He did a couple actually. Let me
I
see.
I
I have
I
an
was
email.
listening and I was like, all right, I want to see what these look like.
Yep. So this is one of my backups. The other ones are in my box.
Oh, that's sweet.
So it's
That's a
got
nice job.
like a little bit of a on there, and then so what this is a replica of Bandit made a bait called the Viral Perch, and this is very similar to that, but it's the blue face is actually an add-on that's a little bit different tweak. I actually have it in a lipless as well, which was never a
Okay.
thing. So I had to make me a lipless version. The other thing he made me, which I can probably send you a photo at some point because I want to show you. There's these frog things, and I don't know how to describe them other than it's like a little tiny hard bait frog, right? But it literally turns 90 degrees as you reel it back, and it only goes about this deep.
Sweet.
So it's like the freaking perfect like up against lily pads, up against grass edges, on the tops of like matted out vegetation. It literally, you reel it, if you just like slow roll it, it will go like this as it comes through the water. And then when you stop reeling, it pops right back to the surface. It is freaking lights out. The first, probably casted it twice and lost it because a fish blew up on it and I broke my connection knot because I'm an idiot. And I should have just fished a straight braid and I had it with a leader. And I, matter of fact,
Well,
Chris from eBay. So these guys right here, actually, that's them. If you guys want to
yeah.
check them out, um, he does some freaking amazing paint jobs, like just incredible paint jobs. He does the jointed swim baits, he does glide baits, he does jerk baits, he does pretty much everything in the hard bait category. And what's cool about him is that they actually do, like, you can send him a he says he's literally had people send him crayon drawings, like literally just draw it out on like paper, and he'll like send you photos and be like this, do you want this tweak, do you want, like, I sent him a bait that I've been trying to get as a lipless, and it's kind of like a brown craw pattern. It has like a darker back, and then there's actually kind of like a lighter goldish brown in the middle, and it had like a craw pattern on it. So he made me one, and it literally has like a chartreuse, like almost like this color, but a little bit darker on the belly. So it's like completely brown across the top with that little chartreuse belly. I've got 4 of them coming. They'll be here in a couple of days. But that's what's cool is
Ye-
you can literally call him and be like, "Hey, I want this bait," and he'll literally paint it. He'll send you samples, ask you how you want to tweak it, so you don't have to buy what he made. He'll be like, "What do you want to change?" So,
I remember when I was fishing ABA, there was a guy on ABA that if you took your crankbaits to him and said, "Hey, I got like 5 or 6 crankbaits. Yeah, I just want to get them touched up." When you saw them next time you saw them, or if you had them mail it to you, you swore they were brand new.
yep,
You know, and a
yeah,
good painter can make more money just repainting than doing his own stuff.
yeah, and it's crazy because so I actually met him at that Springfield Sportsman Show. Is how I met him when I went down to Massachusetts, and I was just talking with him a little bit, and then I bought some of his baits, and then I just kind of like reached out to him on that custom bait, and I wanted to like just see, what he could do for me. And then it turned from that into kind of it's a partnership in the sense of I'm trying to make some content for him. I'm trying to show off his baits because he does a really good job painting. And one of the baits I'm actually going to have, this kind of like a little bit of a preview, but one of the baits he makes, and I want to actually see if I can find the picture of it because you'll like this one. Um, it's actually the bait itself is actually a benefit. So the proceeds of the bait itself go to the Wounded Warrior Project. It's called the Freedom Gill. So it's a kind of flag painted bait. It's got the back of it is red with stripes down the side, so it kind of has that like red craw pattern. The face is blue. It has white stripes, and then there's actually stars within the face of the square bill. And all of the proceeds from that actually go to the Wounded Warrior Project. Any of the ones that he sells go to that. So I got a couple of fish catches that I've done with that particular bait that I'm trying to kind of put together a video and kind of emphasize that because I think it's a really cool cause. And honestly, I've seen a lot of gimmicky baits in my life, and this one doesn't look like a gimmicky bait. Like at a distance, it kind of looks like a regular, red square bill pattern. And then you look at it closely and you're like, oh, there's a flat. It's a flag. Like you don't see it at the distance, and when you look at it in the water, it looks freaking incredible. And like I said, I've caught some pretty big fish on it already. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, great. Yeah, and like we've been saying, I've been having a great time. Last week, 4 nights with the KBT series. We interviewed all the different regions and directors and a lot of anglers and a lot of team owners. I had a great time, and yeah, I'm looking forward to where this is going for me. You know, we, but we still have our Tuesday night show. That's what
yep,
counts.
right, exactly.
But I'm happy about everything that I'm going through lately. It's the network is starting to get there. We're working with some new people. I don't want to go any deeper than we're working with some new people on marketing and
Working with some
everything
people.
else. Yeah, we got a good future planned. I can see Andrew's name. Oh, he's on YouTube. That's why.
So I found that bait. I'm not sure if you can see this one out, but that's what the bait looks like.
Oh, oh yeah,
Trying,
that is sweet.
isn't that freaking cool?
Mm,
So it has like,
that
see what
is
I mean
nice.
by it's not like gimmicky. It's just the right amount of like, kind of has like a craw pattern, like a actual gill plate kind of pattern to it, and it has the star on it. And like I said, I've actually caught fish on that particular bait already.
Yeah,
And this time of
yeah.
year, red does work. It is a color that works in the spring. So, and that's kind of what I've been doing. That's kind of where I've been for the last couple of episodes. Alan's kind of been doing his thing and bringing everybody on. I've been trying to like drop in and watch some of the live streams. A lot of times I've been watching them after the fact, but
And
um,
I've been doing it with your shows.
it's
Watching when I can.
yeah, it's
We
I've
were
been doing a ton of content creation.
talking about Red Craw. I don't know where my case is, but I have one of those big boxes that holds like 30 crankbaits, all different variations of Red Craw.
Yep.
sizes, variations. It's around here, so that's my Florida box. That
Yep.
goes with me no matter when I go to Florida.
See, it's a
All
color I've
right.
never had a lot of success with up here at all. But
I've had a lot. A good friend of mine, Sean Mitchell. We did a lot of tournaments together. We did Douglas Lake down in Knoxville one year, but it was late in the year, so they had drawn down the lake, and we were throwing crankbaits all day, and we were getting hits, but nothing solid, you know. And then when we switched over to the brighter colors, we started getting a little bit, but I think they just drew down that lake too much.
yeah,
It was more of a river than a lake.
it's see that's actually the place I'm fishing on Saturdays like that. It's a reservoir that they do a major drawdown in the winter to the point where like some of the best spots in the summer are shore when you get there in the spring. Like there's no water at all. Like the tree that you were drop shotting on is on the bank. Like you can't even get to it from your kayak. And the main reason why
Well,
I'm
you can go
going
back
there
and get all your hooks. You can go back and
and
get all your hooks now.
and people do, yeah. The reason why I'm going there is because it's also like the I don't know how to like I don't know if it's considered a reserve, but it's where they actually have started to try to bring back the walleye here. So the fish and game department actually stocks walleye in that particular body of water, and they're heavily protected. You can keep one 18-incher, period. You can't keep a 17-incher. You can't keep a 19-incher. Anything smaller or bigger than 18 inches, you can't have. And if you get caught with one in that lake, you're screwed because it's not only considered like taking an illegal fish, like it's a preserve, it's this whole thing. But the Jigs and Bigs tournament that I'm in, walleye is one of the like categories, and no one really ever puts one in there. So I'm trying to work my way into. I've never actually caught a walleye for my kayak, so I think it'd be fun anyways. But
Yeah, it's down here, Fort AP Hill. They I'm looking at the thing now. They completed a stocking of channel catfish on
okay,
some of the ponds and lakes on base. But there is a strict 5 fish limit.
yeah. They
You
stocked
know,
channel cats, huh? Interesting.
yeah, I go to AP Hill. I like to go to White's Lake. It's all the way up in the back. It's kind of added away. If it's on the list every day, the list comes out of what you can fish, what you can't fish. If it's on the list, it's safe. If it's not on the list, then the Corps of Engineers are practicing their bridge building because that's what it is. It's where
Right.
the engineers practice their bridge building going across the lake. But yeah, I love going up there because if you get out in the right spots on that lake, 3 to 2.5 to 3.5 pound bass. It's just like every other
All
cast.
day.
If
Yep.
you just want to go out and have a good time, take your kid out, that's a great place to go.
You know what's funny is I started out the whole show talking about like I caught a PB of 7 pounds, but like honestly, every other fish I caught that day were 12 inches. I caught three really good. Like I put a decent bag in the sense of I had 11. I had almost 16 pounds in three fish, but
Right.
then the rest of them were this big. But honestly, that's the thing that I've learned this year. I learned towards the end of last year was I'm just targeting fish. Like I love bass fishing. I mean, I you could kind of tell I spent a little bit of money on it. If you could see the whole like the wall gets bigger. It's
Yeah.
it's not uh it's not just a hobby for me. It's kind of a lifestyle, but at the same time, I find myself having just as much fun on Thursday. I'm going fishing with my wife. We're gonna literally the gear I'm bringing is two spinning rods, two bobbers, some eagle claw snelled hooks, and some earthworms. and we're just gonna sit there and camp in chairs, eat dinner, and see what bites. And that to
Yes.
me is just as fun and relaxing and enjoyable as catching a 7-pound bass. That's the thing, is I'm starting to learn that like just catching fish in general is just what it's about for me now.
And I think for me, growing up on a lake in New York, that it was seasonal.
Yep.
When you got to the latter part of the season, it was the fun, the most of the fun was just sitting there casting and just staring at the bobber, waiting for it to
Yep.
go down.
Yep.
Because you knew this was it. To see, a couple more weeks, you're switching from fishing rods to hockey sticks. You
Yep.
know.
Yep. And that's the thing about that multi-species tournament, is it kind of made me realize like what it was is I was getting too competitive. And don't get me wrong, when I go to Massachusetts for MAKB events, I'm not. So it's something that the easiest way to describe it is I am in the zone. So like I am probably the most cocky, arrogant prick you'll ever meet when it comes to tournament time. It's just my killer mentality when I get on the water. I'm not going to be a jerk to people, but I am locked in on bass fishing and I am focused on that, and I'm not really there to make friends, and I'm not there until after, and at the weigh-in, totally different deal. But
Yeah.
the problem I had was last year I started to do that in fun fishing, and it started actually making it not fun. It made it not enjoyable because it was like, oh, I'm not catching bass. It's been 2 hours. I should have already caught 5 bass. And I had this like weird standard in my head of what should be happening. And I had to remind myself, and it's something that I've been saying a lot on my channel this year, is the bass didn't read the rule book and they don't know that there's a rule book. So you can't just expect them to follow the pattern just because the weather condition and the water clarity and everything lines up the way it's supposed to does not mean that that bass has to bite that bait that you dragged across its face. So you have to outsmart the fish every time. And I think that's what makes this sport great, is that it's not the same every time. You do have to think and work your way through it. And for me, I'm starting to appreciate that challenge. And when I get to the point where the bass are just not having it, I pull out the freaking earthworms and the bobber and I start fishing for bluegill or crappie, or start trying to get the other fish species on my jigs and bakes tournament. And I think that actually kind of saved my mentality last year, because I was getting so angry with myself because I'm hyper competitive. Like, why can't I get fish? And then I would stop. I would catch 2 or 3 bluegill. They may or may not help me in my tournament. And then I go, well, okay, so the bluegill are biting, so maybe I should use a bluegill bait because there's clearly bluegill in the area. And then it like kind of starts that process all over again. You stop spinning out. I'm sure like when you did big boat tournaments, it's real easy to like have a game plan, try to execute the game plan, pivot from the game plan, and then go, what do I do? I don't know what to do. What the hell? It's just
And
easy to
that
get spun out.
and that was usually the point when they called my boat number. I was like, ah, crap. Now what? You had
Mhm.
that whole game plan in your head.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's hard sometimes. I've gone out on a Friday and pre-fished and did good, did bad. Went out in the tournament. It was all right, but I would go back to the same place, either Fort Washington Landing up on the Potomac, right, basically across the street from Washington's home, Mount Vernon,
Yep.
just across the river from there, or Mattawoman, or I'd go to Hope Springs, and I'd go out and just take my rod and just, oh, where were you yesterday?
Yep.
You know, I'm pulling up, 3.5, 4.5 pound bass,
Yep.
whereas tournament day, 2.5. And the same thing when I was a co-angler on the Potomac River has 2 seasons. One part of the season, I believe it's 15-inch is the minimum. Then come towards, I believe it's the end of June, end of May, June, it drops down to 12 inches.
Oh, really?
Man, you'd be out there the week before, 14.5 inches. And the following week, it's down to 12 inches. and it's like 11 and a half. It's like, what you guys do? Just go short all of a sudden?
That's funny.
It's like it's like a deer. The day before opening day, the deer are all standing in your front yard looking at you, laughing.
Yep.
The next morning, they're gone.
Yep.
You can't find them no more. And I think bass are the same way. I,
Yeah. No,
I
I
really
think a
do.
lot of it has to do with like for up here, it's a combination of fishing pressure, but there's a lot of like for me, there's a lot of resident fish. There is bodies of water that I fish that I can call my shot. I can go to a body of water and say, if you throw a Senko into this tree, you're gonna pull a fish out. Now, is it gonna be a 5 pounder? No. Is it gonna be 4 12 inchers that you're gonna pull off of that tree every time you fish there? Probably. The problem I think with bass fishermen is that we're never satisfied with the status quo. It's always like, okay, if I can't catch 5 pounders, I want to catch 15 12 inchers. Like it's always a competition with yourself, and that's why I started doing tournaments because it got to the point where I realized that like a lot of the places that I was fishing, I could catch fish, but I wasn't learning. So it wasn't as fun as going to somewhere brand new that I'd never seen before and then trying to figure it out. Because sometimes not catching a fish for 8 hours, but figuring out a new body of water is just as fun as catching a big bass out of a place that you already know where they probably are. In my
Yeah.
personal opinion, I don't know if that's for everybody. There might be some people that don't agree with that, but I like going to a brand new place of water and see like, oh, there's this little ledge right here. It drops off. There's a rock pile on the end of it. Let me try a bait that I think might work. And then when you figure out that pattern, you get that like sense of accomplishment. Like, okay, cool. I figured something out. And that's to me, I think it's like the ADD in me because I'm constantly like, oh, shiny. And then when something works, I'm like, oh, cool, that worked. How can I make something else like this happen again? And then you just keep chasing that pattern.
Yeah, it is. And it's more satisfying. I'll tell you what, I can go, like I said, I basically fished majority of my tournaments out of Smallwood State Park on Potomac. And I don't care if you come in the top 10 3 out of 5 times. It's great.
Yep.
Maybe the top five, 1 or 2 out of 5 times. That's great.
Right.
But to go to a completely new body of water and finish in the top 10, I think is more satisfying.
Yeah.
And that's why I used to like the opens because the Southern Open and the Northern Open, every year they would change up a little. They would drop one place and go to another place. And I liked that because it gave you something different every year. You were fishing different bodies of, at least one of the bodies of water was different.
Yep.
And to me, it was a challenge. I was a co-angler still, but I enjoyed it. And I think I learned more that way than I did any other way there is.
And that's what it is for me is being from the content side of things is my goal this year was to do more education stuff, to produce more stuff that teaches people some of the stuff that I have spent hours learning. And what I've learned is I don't know crap. The longer you do it and you start to think about, okay, I want to teach how to do this technique, but I don't necessarily know a lot about all the techniques. I know quite a bit about certain ones, but then there's a lot of places where like drop shot's not really a thing for me because a lot of the places I fish have so much submergent vegetation that you could do a drop shot and it works and you can drop it down through the grass and rip it through, but it's not an enjoyable fish because you're spending half of your time untangling or retying new weights on because you snapped the weight off on a lily pad patch or a milfoil patch and it's just not enjoyable. But the other bait that really confounded me for years, which will surprise most people, was a Ned rig. I caught my first Ned rig fish this year. And that was in Massachusetts. It wasn't even here. It was when I was with Bobby down in Massachusetts, and it was because that body of water didn't have the heavy vegetation yet. It doesn't have all the stuff that we have here. So like here, a lot of the places that I fish, the bottom is just muck. It's that like slimy, like dead vegetation, mucky, like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you pull it up, you have to peel it off your baits because it's like stuck to it, you know? And a Ned rig doesn't stand up on the bottom. It just blends in with all that crap and it's not useful. So you pretty much have to catch everything on the fall. So a lot of times those techniques, those bottom contact techniques, don't apply as much because the bottom composition of a lot of places I fish doesn't apply. Come to Massachusetts now, all of a sudden, I'm fishing a lot of rocky lakes. I'm fishing a lot of rocky bottom stuff that I've got to start to work on drop shot because I got to be able to fish deep. I got to be able to drag a jig through the rocks and all that. So that's why some of this stuff is becoming more fun for me again because it's like, oh, I have to learn this. So I'm even practicing it in places that it doesn't really apply only because at least I get the technique down. And that's something that I've started to do is when the bite sucks, even though like it's not a jerk bait bite condition, I'll fish a jerk bait because I've never caught one on it and I'm just trying to figure out the cadence, you know? And
Yeah.
that's something that I think people should do more of when they do fishing is like when you're not catching fish rather than just be like screw this, let's go home. Think about a technique that you have wanted to practice or wanted to learn. Do it because the only way you're really going to learn it is to do it on the water. You can watch as much YouTube as you want. You can come check out Binya Outdoors and see how I teach you how to do it. But until you get that rod in your hand, tie that bait on, and cast it, you're only going to be able to get so much information. The rest of it's got to be by practice.
And I mean, I don't go out looking to do it as much as I should maybe, but I like flipping a jig and just dragging it. I like to pop it across the bottom.
Yep.
Just pop it a few times, drag it a little, pop it, drag it. I know a lot of anglers that they're very successful doing that. I would like to be. I'm still learning, but I don't know. I'm that crankbait, not crankbait, spinnerbait guy.
Okay.
I'll throw that spinnerbait right over a tree stump or a branch and just slowly pop it until it drops.
Yep.
And just let it fall. And as it's falling, just twitch it a little,
So
just to
you're
kind of
basically
make the head come up.
yo-yoing a spinnerbait.
Yeah, and I prefer
Okay.
doing that, you know.
Okay.
And crankbaits, like I say, it's really got to be the only thing hitting that day for me to do it.
It's dude, it's funny because so spinnerbait's another bait. I've never caught a fish on spinnerbait. Not once. I bought them. I've gotten them rusty because I left them wet, put them away wet, and they got screwed up and wasted the money on them. But I've been unsuccessful with them. Crankbaits for me, it's weird. So last year, I couldn't buy a crankbait bite. I couldn't catch them on deep divers. I couldn't catch them on square bells. Now I could catch them on lipless, but I don't really consider lipless in that crankbait. It's a different kind of bait because the way I fish it is mostly yo-yoing it up off the bottom, kind of jigging it, and then once I get it closer to the boat, then I just kind of slow roll it back. But like I couldn't buy a bite with a square bell last year, but I caught almost all of my reaction fish on a chatterbait. And that's what's cool about fishing. This year, I have yet to hook a fish on a chatterbait. I can't get them to bite it. I've thrown it every single time I'm fishing. I literally am taking the chatterbait with the same freaking trailer I caught baits last year. It's still there. It's still on there from last year. Cast it out on the same rod in the same areas, and I won't catch a fish on it. It's just funny how the patterns work their way through, and some years in some places it's one thing, and some places it's another thing, and sometimes it's a color too. Sometimes it's like for some reason bubblegum pink is hot this year, but last year no one caught anything on that color either. I think that's what makes this sport. I think that's what makes like this network as well interesting because you get that kind of information. Hey, this is what we're catching on. This is where content creators become valuable because you learn about those trends. You learn what people are doing that might be a little bit different than what you're doing. And then you can try to apply that, because sometimes the slightest change, the tiniest little tweak to what you're doing can make a difference on catching fish.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen it where people are throwing Cincos, they're throwing um, D bombs, they're throwing all this stuff. And all they do is they just take this little container, dip the tail, turn about a quarter inch of the tail
Yep.
chartreuse
Yep.
night and day.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of trial and error. You get out there, try it, see how it works.
You know what I did on
But
Saturday? I wanted to try something weird. Cut a Senko in half lengthwise. Made it just flat. So, and fished it wacky rig so that it would just stay there longer. So instead of like doing the whole fall, it like barely fell because it was resisting so much water, and I ended up catching like 3 fish on it. And sometimes it's something
yes,
stupid like that where there's no reason to do it. I just happen to have some that were already cut in half because I was making laminates, and I just got sick of it, and I said to screw it, and I just threw them all in the bag and forgot that they were in there. So I pulled one out, and I'm like, it's half a Senko. So I'm like, screw it, let's see what happens. And yeah, I threw it in front of a dock, and it's like I literally watched it, and it's like almost suspending because it won't fall, because the flatness of the bottom of that worm is just kind of keeping it in the current. And I literally threw it up to 2 different docks and pulled 3 or 4 fish out of the same dock, because it was just, I think it was, sometimes with bass fishing, has nothing to do with their instincts, has nothing to do with them being hungry. Sometimes I literally think, in general, of fishing, you just pissed them off. I think sometimes they're just sitting there trying to chill under their dock piling, and this thing is just in their face, and it's annoying them. And I think that's why suspended baits, when they're lethargic, work, is honestly because the bass are just like, get out of my face. Like, they're just trying to get rid of this thing that's in their way. And because they hit it, you hook them. Because a lot of times with those bites, you also hook them on the outside of the mouth a lot too. Because I think they're
yeah,
lashing out at the bait. I don't think they're even trying to eat it or even necessarily kill it. They just want to get it away from them.
blowing it out of their way. Well, getting old.
So do you have a lot of? I saw you, the KBT thing. Is that something that's going to be like a regularly scheduled interview stuff that you're going to have going with them, or?
Yeah, we're going to talk to them after this Thursday night. We're going to be on with the regional reps and possibly some of their sponsors. We're going to go over the weekend. They have 14 teams fishing this weekend, and they each team compromises 4 members. There's up to 10 members per team, but only 4 will fish this weekend. And for some of them, like the East Division, has 3 teams on it. They're all fishing Lake McIntosh down in Burlington, North Carolina.
Okay.
The Southeast team, which has 4 different teams within it, they're fishing Lake Seminole, Florida, Georgia. Southwest team and the Northern team. The North team has 3, and the Southwest has 4. They're fishing various locations.
Now, how does that work with? Because to be honest, I started to follow some of the live streams. So is it like all the teams face off at a body of water and then the winner wins, or is it like a head-to-head thing?
It's like they put it when they do it. It's 4 by 4 by 4 by 4.
Okay.
So 4 members, 4 teams, and the highest team wins for the region.
Okay.
So you might have
It's cool.
you, me, and 2 other guys tomorrow, Saturday fishing for our region, for our team. But the next event, I might back out of it because because we're at a body of water that somebody else might be better than I am at. That might be
Gotcha.
one of my weak spots. But yeah, I like the way the KBT works. Good group of guys, and I kind of like the format.
That is kind of cool. I see. I That's one thing that when I switch things up from. So the reason why I switched from Slay Nation to Massachusetts was some of it was financial. The schedule at the time that the schedule was released, my wife changed jobs, and literally every single weekend that I had a tournament, she was working, and I have a new
Ah,
puppy. So like it's literally I was gonna be constantly gone and having to deal with that. On top of all of that, there's a lot more events in the Slay Nation series. So the MAKB West that I'm in, there's basically one a month, and it's more manageable. And all of those events are closer to me than the ones from New Hampshire.
right.
So it was one of those things, but it's just something that's why I wanted to do that. But the team element thing is really cool because it's the exact opposite in the league I'm in. We're not even allowed to communicate with the other anglers in the tournament. Once the tournament begins, so after pre-fishing ends, communication is cut. You can't talk to your friends, you can't talk to anybody that's in the competition. And some of the guys that I'm competing with are like they were part of the old KFL. Like these guys are big names in kayak fishing, and it's it's a big, like in my mind I'm like this like minor leaguer playing with pros. It's just kind of this weird, but at the same time I'm so hyper competitive that I'm like I'm gonna beat the pro. Like I just go out there like trying to do that, and it's something that I think having a teammate would be cool because then you would be able to at least bounce ideas off of that person. Like I feel like fishing as a 4-man team, you guys could really, because I'm assuming there's no like distance, like they can just pretty much all fish different areas of the lake, right? They don't have to be near each
You
other.
don't have to be together or anything. They can bounce around. And that's what's the beauty of it
That's
is,
cool.
you could be fishing against 100 feet away could be somebody from another team.
Hmm.
So, and I like that. Like you were talking about, pros and all. I was at the KBF
Yep.
event on the Potomac this weekend. I went down for Sunday's event uh, at Aquia Landing, or I forget, Aquia Landing Park, whatever it was. Isolated place. And
Yep.
you drive down this road, you better be bright eyed and wide awake
Yep.
because on the side there's literally maybe a 3 inch. You got the white line and then nothing. It's straight
Gotcha.
down 15 feet. So, but these guys, watching these guys and seeing their numbers for 5 fish, I was like, that's five. You know, they were doing great. And looking at all the kayaks in the parking lot, everything is so different.
It's it's a
And
thing, man. When you see these kayak tournaments, you think of like a kayak tournament as like this grassroots entry level thing, and then you watch guys like, granted I'm one of them, but like you watch these guys unload their $4,000 kayak with their $2,000 trolling motor with their 100 amp hour lithium battery. One of the guys, the guy Bailey Eichbrett, he fishes. He's going to be fishing. So the trail I'm in is MAKB. The big boy version of it is the EKF. It's all run by Ken Wood. They're fishing Cayuga this weekend, and my buddy Bailey and some of the people from my trail are fishing that. So he did like a whole walkthrough of his kayak. He's got forward facing sonar. He's got the full Humminbird
yeah,
setup. He's got a Hydra Wave. He's got a Torpedo. He's got basically, he said at one point in the video that he's got $16,000 in equipment in his kayak between the cost of the kayak and all that. So
these guys,
it's crazy.
these smart lock dual screens, and I'm not talking 5 inch screens. We're talking
9 inch
10,
screens.
11 inch screens,
Yep.
nine
Yep.
inch screens side by side.
Yep.
It's like, where do you sit?
Yep.
if you slip, you got couple $1,000 going out the water in the
Oh
water.
yeah.
And when you see them pull up with identical kayaks, in case one breaks, the other one's all ready to go. It's 100% the
Yep.
same setup on these beautiful trailers.
Yep.
And if you go back 5 years from now, 5 years in the past, it was a 180. They were towing these things in the back of their trucks.
Yep.
If they had a 4-inch Garmin in there, you were lucky.
Yep.
And the closest thing to a motor was the one that sat in the center.
Yep.
You know, these guys got trolling motors with the remote
Oh yeah.
and a bass boat.
Motor Guide XI3. They make a kayak specific model with a shorter shaft, remote
Yeah,
control. It's actually a really. I'm not gonna lie. That's if I win any of these tournaments, I'm gonna be investing. But yeah,
it
it's
was
crazy.
amazing. Yeah, and it was amazing to watch these kayaks and the different types and the different ways they set it up. And it was great. It was a learning curve for me. Yeah, I went there to learn, to watch, and I did learn a lot. Uh, Really great group of people because also the Northern Virginia Kayak Association was there. They fished on Saturday, and then the Mid Atlantic kayak fishing they fished on, I believe, Sunday, along in conjunction with the KBF. So
Yep.
you had multiple award ceremonies in one.
Yeah, we're
But
we're affiliated with KBF in my trail. If you place in the top 10%, you get to go to the championship thing. But
yeah, and I think Slay Nation does that too, right?
yeah, a lot of them are partnered with the KBF, and it's basically like you get to go to that final championship. But like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to do it, but a lot of times it's in places like Texas or like I,
Yeah,
that's a from Vermont. That's a trip.
it is. It is. And yeah, I know we had our first slot series tournament 2 weeks ago, and it was good. We had 19 anglers.
Pretty good.
Uh, I had a lot of photos to go through. I mean,
I can
Saturday
imagine.
and Sunday was unbelievable, but it was a good showing. Hoping we get more for the next event, which is May. I'm putting all the schedules up. I gotta, but it's I think May 22nd, 23rd, something like that. But I had a good time, and it made me feel good. No, May 20th and 21st is the next event. I, I'm looking forward. We hit 19. I'm looking maybe we could do 25 for the next event.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. You
Well, you're
know,
gonna get a lot of, like I said, the Northeast stuff. So you're gonna get some of these guys, up here. I know a
up
lot of
here.
guys that don't even think about fishing until Memorial Day. Like Memorial Day is the start of fishing season for a lot of people. So you're gonna see that. I think you're gonna see an uptick in your next one. Just because of the fact that not everybody is stupid and wants to go fish in March in the snow in their kayak. It's
Yeah. And the nice thing about Slay Nation and our slot series, you can drop your worst one.
right.
So if you miss the first one, you make the other 4 or 5, you can still do okay. You
Yep.
can just drop that first one. Yeah, and Memorial Day, we have a big benefit tournament on the James River out of Osborne on Monday, Memorial Day weekend. That's I forget I think it was $100 a boat. I forget, but it's a benefit for a
Cool.
angler, a local guy. So yeah, I can't wait. I want to go down and be part of that.
Are you gonna fish it,
Help
or
them
you're
out.
just gonna go down and hang out?
I'm just gonna go help Harvey, who's running it. Just
Gotcha.
gonna go help them out. They have a big raffle, so I said what the American Angler will do is the the winner will interview the winner. for a upcoming show.
Cool.
So, and maybe the Thursday before the event or the Tuesday before the event, maybe we'll see if we can't get. I know Harvey won't come on, but maybe we can get a representative to come on with us and talk about it.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward. You all know what Tuesday night is, and it's 9:30.
Getting close. I've been looking at that timer. I've been like, yeah, we're getting closer here.
Yeah, we getting close to. I had to make a change. I pulled the speaker out.
Oh,
Yeah, I pulled it out of my ear, then I pulled it out of the computer. But
gotcha.
yeah, I want to get over. I want to get over, watch that, and just lay down and relax a little.
Don't
Take it
blame you.
easy.
So I will be
But
back, guys, on Tuesdays. I know I've been kind of missing for a little bit. We're gonna be doing the Tuesday shows. I'm trying to get
yeah,
some guests on for lives. I've kind of slowed down on lives on my channel. I think I'm gonna kind of reserve them for this. I think my live streaming stuff is going to be more in the wintertime on my channel, just something to do in the wintertime. But this time of year, between rig and tackle, I was rewiring my kayak today, trying to keep household stuff up. I'm just too busy to do it. But there's some guests I want to try to bring on. I'm going to try to bring some people in here, and at the very least, we can talk about fishing and tournaments and review
yeah.
different stuff that we've done throughout the week. So
Yeah, and I got a few guests I want to see about bringing on. Frank from over at Slay Nation,
yep.
and a few other guys from some other organizations. And I'll probably, I am going to be slammed again for the next, hopefully for the next few years. I kind of
Right.
enjoying this. Um, but I want to do a show that'll air on Wednesdays at 9. That will be a half-hour interview show, and we'll just pre-do the interviews. Michael, Mike, you and I can bring somebody on and
Yeah.
just little 15-minute interviews, nice, quick, and just put two of them back to back. You know,
Yep.
and I'd like to start doing that, produce that for us
Yeah.
for the channel. I think it'd be a great thing. I will be doing a lot. We do have coming up May 22nd, no, 23rd. That Tuesday night is, yeah, I'm in 2023. It just doesn't look right. Uh, I'm like, I flip through things so quick. But May 22nd, that Tuesday night, the Florida Hooligans, the Oklahoma Outlaws, and I'm trying to get two more teams up there, will debut with will have their premiere shows. And then every week at that time slot, they'll have a new show up. So I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
We got a lot going on. We we're gonna have a lot more shows come on board over the next few months, the next few weeks. I'm sorry. I've been keeping track of the numbers. Guys, if you have Roku, can somebody please download it? We've been stuck at 99 for about 3 days, 4 days now.
That's
Somebody hit
funny.
100 for me.
That's funny.
iOS is starting to pick up. Android, I kind of stalled out for a while. It'll gain 2 or 3 viewers and then it'll stall out for a few days.
Yeah.
But iOS seems to be a nice constant, 1 or 2 a day. Yeah, I'd like to see that turn to 10 or 20 a day across the
Right.
board. And we got the Google Analytics for the website fixed. Finally got that straightened out, so we can keep track of who's going on there and watching. The whole thing is, I did notice with iOS, our minutes viewed per day have actually increased. So we were like
Okay.
3.5 minutes a day. We're up to almost 8 or 9, which,
It's crazy how much that is important. You'd be surprised how much more that means than individual views. So
yeah, if you got 30 people watching for 7 minutes a day, and the only thing I don't like about all that is it doesn't tell you what channel they were watching. But I can probably head into our channel and get some analytics from them. So I want to be able to get the numbers up so we can attract the advertisers. That's the
Yep.
big thing.
Yep.
I think the shows are coming on board. We'll have those. Probably maybe by September, we can start a new season in September with a full lineup. And I think that would be a great goal. Get some shows, get some viewers, get some sponsors, and get this thing where we want it to be.
That reminds me, I got a link I gotta send you for Roku.
Okay.
I completely forgot. So I have my first tournament series. So for guys that are still anybody who came this long into the live stream, my first tournament I made a video of the whole event basically. So I'm actually going to be doing them differently going forward, but that video is actually I think it's 17 minutes. It's pretty long, but it's my actual map study. So I literally break down the lake, my map study, what I looked at for weather, all of that. Then I went into actually fishing the event, talked my way through what I was doing, caught some fish, reviewed it at the end. That's what I'm going to do for my tournament series. Those videos are going to typically release a couple weeks after the tournament, mostly because how long it takes to edit them all. But they're going to be split into 2 parts now. So there's going to be a pre-fishing video and then the actual fishing video, because I think people are going to click off of it when they get halfway through me going, and this is a dock, and I think I'm going to fish this dock because this dock is in deeper water. Some people like that stuff, some people don't. So I want to split it up to give the people that want to see the fishing content their ability to just watch the fishing stuff, and people that want to learn. But so those videos are going to be coming to this network as well. That's what I'm going to be sending in. So, but I'm going to send you that link today.
I seem to have a light going bad.
Yeah,
Right.
but yeah, I'll send you that.
I was wondering that the light just started flickering.
I was wondering if it was me because I went like this, and then all of a sudden your light started flickering. I was like, "How did I do that?"
And the sad part is, it's the new one. The one I've had for 2 years is still sitting there kicking.
Oh,
this
really?
one I've had for about 2 months is starting to flicker.
That's funny.
Well, I got to fix this all up again. I haven't changed it in 2 weeks. Time for a change.
As you could tell, I had to make a change. My dog is an escape artist, and she managed to break out of the kennel that we put in the room that I built with chain link all the way around it, to the point where she got stuck in it. She got her head stuck through the chain link. So I had to gut that entire room, and that's where all this stuff was out in the mudroom on the wall. So I ended up moving it. So now my living room kind of looks like a sporting goods store, because half of my wall behind me is all baits now. But I think it's cool.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky I got this little room in the back, but the place we were living at before here, I had my off I couldn't get my office desk upstairs. This thing was huge.
Yep.
Mahogany. So it went in the living room. I put it in the corner in the living room on a 45, facing the fireplace, the couch, TV off to the side, and that was my basic office. Take the laptop, go downstairs.
My living room TV's right there. My couch is over there. My wife's over there doing homework on her computer, and I'm in my living room. Same deal.
Well, you see, we got this, and then TV's over there, but my wife's desk is over there.
Yep.
And my trophies. And then here, and then behind me is another big shelf with a lot of stuff I got to go through still.
That's, as I was putting all these baits up, I made a vow that I'm going to start fishing all of that stuff. Some of the weird crap that I bought, the stuff that I thought might work. And I'm just going to start, like, when I'm fun fishing, just start filtering it through and just see if it works. And if it doesn't, I'm going to start melting it down and making stuff that does work out of it. So,
well, I got my studio here with all the computer and everything. But then, see, off to the back, it's my regular desk.
Yep.
But of course, there's a big container on it.
Yep.
So I got to get that out of the way. But that's the actual desk. So hopefully I'll get everything clean. All right, I'm gonna run and watch Oak Island.
Me.
see if they ever find anything on there other than a, a little something here and there. I think the day is coming. But Michael, it's been good. Miss being on here with you. We keep doing this on Tuesday nights. Plus, we got a lot of other stuff going on, like we are both saying. And we'll see everybody again next Tuesday. All right, I'm gonna knock the street.